Welcome, one and all, to Championship Week. The Promised Land is upon us. And
Well,
the
I think it's upon you and I, all the rest of you guys.
so the two of us, James and I, have made it to the Promised Land. Or one step away from the Promised Land, I suppose. Um, And so we're going to talk about obviously the path we took to get there. I've got the beautiful draft photo that I made, or the beautiful championship photo I made for the two of us 2 years ago when James unfortunately defeated me. Um, so really, it's going to come down to a lot. Knock on wood. Seems like everyone's healthy right now. Seems like everyone's doing okay. Well, hopefully it keeps that way. We want to both play our best game. But let's talk about how we got there, how we got to the finals, and we'll talk about. I know we missed a podcast. I'm not going to go back to the quarterfinal round. We know that in round one of the playoffs, unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, depending on your perspective, Alex lost to James. Daryl beat McMillan, who had a terrible week. Um,
Which
window
I know you guys. I knew you guys already talked about that, but man, McMillan. Really thought it was gonna be Alex McMillan.
Yeah, everyone did. Everyone thought
Yeah,
McMillan and Alex would end up being
stacked.
against Zach and I, and both of the Hagerstown boys eliminated. Um, Meanwhile, Window beat Jerry to send him to the Sacco Bowl finals. Of course, Brad lost to Jason Smith. We all knew that was going to happen. And to recap, in the Sacco Bowl, Brad. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that one in a second.
Yeah,
But
I want to talk about that Sacco Bowl because that was a Sacco Bowl for the ages.
all
Actually,
right. So let's actually you will do things a little bit. This is the only time this year we won't start with the commissioner's game first. Let's go to the Sacco Bowl and let's
yeah.
talk about that matchup.
Let's talk about that matchup. All right, let's.
So I liked the way that I put this on Facebook. Brad, all year, he's the first one eliminated. He doesn't start, or he starts Justin Fields, who doesn't play. He starts a quarterback who is not playing at a super flex. He puts up 74 points, which is the ninth best score this week. Everyone else in the league he lost to. He generally demonstrates all the reasons why he should be the one at Waffle House. And Jerry, my man, falls on the grenade and puts up 45.
Jerry just totally took the cake of shitting the bed and absolutely deserves every waffle that he's going to eat. And
Does he
funny,
though?
I know he does. Look at I mean, you look at that team. And granted, I think Jerry had a rough go of it because of CMC and Eckler. Like this number 1 and 2 pick not playing for this final game. That being said, the rest of that team is dog shit. Keenan Allen lived down a little bit, but Mike Davis, Ben Roethlisberger, Josh Palmer as your flex. Oof.
Here's the thing, right? Like Jerry obviously lost Run CMC. That was the biggest mistake he made was drafting Christian McCaffrey first, which he really isn't a mistake. Like everyone would have drafted Christian McCaffrey first.
That was the right move. Yeah.
It's bad luck. It also Eckler might have made a difference, might have made this a competitive game if he were in. Ultimately, what came back to haunt Jerry was the fact that, and more than anything, if you had to point to one thing there, you could say like the defense putting up -6 doesn't help, but Brad's defense put up -4. More than anything, the real problem was his quarterbacks, and we talked about this all year long that Daryl and Jerry were our test cases for quarterbacks in not drafting quarterbacks early in a super flex draft, and it caught up with them in a major way. Ben Roethlisberger 6.36, Taylor Heineke 4.74. And Keenan Allen had a down day, and with Eckler out, McCaffrey out, and Keenan Allen having a down day, it just wasn't. Everyone had down days for him.
He picked up both of Baltimore's quarterbacks, and last week that looked like a genius move, right? Like Tyler Huntley had started in week 6, and let's say Lamar Jackson goes down with an ACL. You would have thought you were a genius. I think that might be what Jerry was thinking was going to happen. He'd find the new hot hand. But here, he's stuck in a situation whereas the other side of that, where he picks up 2 quarterbacks on what otherwise would be a high-scoring team, but doesn't know who to start because they get injured or they're uncertain, like Josh Johnson. So he ends up going with the known bad quantities. And I think he's been trying to do that same thing the entire season, and it's always handicapped.
Yeah, I mean, Brad certainly you could make a case deserved the Sacco, but Brad does not get the Sacco. He's never had the Sacco, and Jerry's gonna be
Okay?
eating waffles with Jason Smith and Jason McMillan.
And any
Um,
given Sunday, you can show up like Washington did to Dallas and just not show up, I guess.
but again, I think
I,
ultimately,
I'm
like,
I'm glad that in a sense everybody in this league wins because the Sacco really was the worst of this. Their total combined points was 119.1. Uh, you and I beat that both each by 30 points, and almost everybody else in the league beat their scores combined. It just feels good when the right thing happens.
I will say that it is fitting that the two of us meet in the finals, having put up the highest scores in the semifinals, and the highest scores league wide. It's fitting that no matter what would have happened, if we had made it this far, we were playing in the finals. Um, so yeah, I agree with you there. I do think Jerry's had a lot of bad luck this year, but it. I mean, bottom line is first. It's so funny. Like this season has been so interesting in so many ways, but in the same season where Jerry goes from champion to Sacco, you and I demonstrated that the opposite can be true. We'll talk about this a little later on, but we both started 0-4. We both look like 4 weeks into the season, we're dead on arrival. Like, if you would have said after week 4 that you and I would be playing for a title, no one would have believed you.
Because you and I think we well, if you want, we can just talk about that now before we get to the other games.
All right,
I think your team underperformed for those first 4 weeks, and so
I
they were
agree.
not representative of what your team was. And I think kind of the opposite of Jerry and Brad. I just ridden a lot of really good luck over the last 10 weeks, and so yeah, I think maybe your team underperformed and luck goes your way. You could have just as easily ended up like Alex or McMillan did. But your team solidified itself, and you know that's kind of what I like about this game is that luck can go your way one day or one season, and cannot go your way the next.
Yeah, the biggest difference makers for me, more than anything else, it was Josh Allen early on. And granted, even when Josh Allen had a good week in week 3 and put up 37, I had down days from almost everybody else on my team. But like he struggled early, 17, 16, then he had the 37, then he went back to 20. But after
Yeah.
that point, aside from a week of 9.5 and week of 11.7, and there I guess there's 116 there. He's got a lot of like 20, 29, 30, 35. He's got some big days there. When he booms, my team, aside from like I said, week 3, has really been okay. I mean, I think I had. Let me look back. I think I had somewhere in there like a 7 or 8 game win streak. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game win streak. So after the 4-0 start, and both of us, I think, won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of our like 8 of 9 after that, or 8 of 10 at least, something like that to get to the finals. Because, like I said, I had
I
that
mean,
6 game win streak.
if we started 0-4, each of us are 10-2 going into the playoffs.
Right, simple
Now,
math.
now we're each of well, you had a bye. I'm 12-2 since I started 0-4.
Well, and the crazy part is, but for what? So let's play the what if game for a little bit. What if I had kept Daniel Jones? Right? You wouldn't have, and I had started him against you. You wouldn't have won that week, and you wouldn't have made the playoffs. So this is all really
Yeah,
my fault if I lose.
you created a monster basically.
I did. Let's go to the scoreboard and look at our matchups.
Yeah,
I'll start with my own. Oh, whoops, that's our matchup. We'll get there in a second. Um,
we're gonna start with the consolation ladder.
oh no, we're not going to talk. We don't need to worry about because we already did the Sacco Bowl. None of Windows match with Jason Smith doesn't matter. Obviously, Jason Smith won. Alex beat McMillan. No one cares. The matchups we care about are the semifinals, and in mine, man, my team had a day again.
Oof. Yeah.
170 felt good going into a semifinal. I just hope I didn't use it all in that. And
I was gonna say you're a little worried you blew your load a little too early.
no, and here's why. Granted, it was a great day for T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. Like, that's what inflated my score to the extent that it did. Josh Allen had a 30-pointer. Jalen Waddle had a 20-pointer. But, like, those are guys who I'm going to be starting every week, and it's not that unreasonable. Nick Chubb had a big day at 25, like a fairly big day. But Jonathan Taylor only put up 10, and you expect more from him. So, like,
and Devontae Parker, you got nothing out of him.
that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's my. We'll get to this in a little bit. My big question mark this week is going to be the flex. But I mean, this feels good to see some of my guys booming. I said this. I was looking back at the post draft podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that we talked. I called at the very beginning of the season. I got some things wrong. Everyone did. We all got things. It was you, Jerry, and I who both were at that post draft podcast. We talked about the steals and things we got. There were things we got right, things we got wrong. But the big thing that I called about my team, the only praise I gave to my team, was the steal of Jonathan Taylor in the 3rd round, which he's the number 1 running back in fantasy. And man, oh man, did I call that. And now,
he
like I said,
has carried you to this point. Like some of the big games that he's put up, he's putting up the same type of team on his shoulders that CMC did a couple seasons ago. Adrian Peterson, I remember doing. It's been a big season for him.
Well, and you look at John Taylor's number 1 running back in fantasy, Josh Allen's number 1 quarterback in fantasy. Nick Chubb is an RB1 right now.
Yeah.
T. Higgins and Jalen Waddle are both wide receiver 2s. Mike Gesicki is the bottom tier of tight end 1, but like Joe Burrow's a QB1. Like, it's really been those guys that have been the studs of my team, that have been the backbone of it, that have carried me, even though I have a weak tight end, a weak flex, inconsistent defense play. I really haven't needed reliable options there with the dual quarterback, dual running back threat, and solid 2 wide receiver 2s there. It's been enough of a point base to be okay.
Setting aside the 40 that Joe Burrow put up or the 35 that Higgins put up, because I don't think those numbers are out of the ordinary. They're a little inflated. I think you basically can count on and have been getting 50 to 60 points out of your quarterback and your 2 running backs for the entire season. Yeah, and that's consistency. It's the consistency as you would want when you're playing fantasy football.
High floor, high ceiling is what you're looking for. Zach didn't have a chance only because Daryl didn't have a chance only because he ended up playing me. It was decided going into the Monday night game, even though the Dolphins defense put up 25 for him. But it was really decided, before that with the amount of points I put up. He really didn't, aside from Justin Jackson and the Dolphins D, he really didn't have anyone blow up or boom for him that he needed. Damian Harris did, but Damian Harris was unfortunately on his bench.
And he put up a fine week, and this is kind of what I get back to talking about luck. I think he put up more points this week than I put up last week and won against a better team. No, I mean, well, you have a good team, but it's just one of those things. He put up a decent score. There's nothing to feel like let you down. You got crushed.
Top 5 in the league this week in scoring. He was.
Yeah.
He beats Zach. He beats McMillan. Granted, some of these guys aren't playing for anything, but he beats Window. He beats both the Sacco guys, but just not enough.
If the seeding had been different, he would have beaten Zach.
Right. And speaking of which, you took it to Zach despite not having Dalvin Cook. Granted, Alex Madison has proven time and time again he is a serviceable option when Cook is out to get maybe 80-90% of the production you would have gotten otherwise.
I think with the exception of maybe Tony Pollard, I think he's the best handcuff in football.
Yeah, I'd make an argument he's more valuable than Tony Pollard. Because Tony Pollard, there are games when he won't do anything, and Madison, when he's the guy when Cook's out, there's no doubts.
And they feed him too. They feed him like they're not worried about damaging him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
he had a Zach. If we're going to that game, Zach, he had a good game as Dak Prescott. I mean, I really until the Dallas D got 24 and Zach was going off that first half, I really thought that it was going to be close. Like, I really thought that he might have had me, but I think the Dallas D putting up 24 and then Myles Gaskin not doing anything, he still would have lost. He had talked to me about putting in Rex Burkhead instead of Gaskin. And Zach, you still would have lost.
But then again, like it makes it much more competitive. Yes, he still would have lost, but if he puts in Burkhead over Gaskin, all of a sudden it's what is that, a 25-point swing essentially? We're talking about
Yeah.
141 to 148, and then it's like again because like you said, your defense put up 24. The defensive spread here is 21 points. That
Hmm.
if but for Burkhead and that decides the game. Um, you were helped by Mark Andrews being. I mean, where is he in terms of fantasy production? He's got to be he's
He's
the
the
best
number
tight end in
one.
fantasy. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
And Mark Andrews, I've had for 3 seasons in a row, and he was on my championship team 2 years ago.
yeah.
Uh, he's sneaky good, even though I don't think after this season he's going to be so sneaky anymore.
No, he's been an absolute stud. He did it for you again. AJ Brown had a great game against San Francisco. You didn't really get. I mean, you have reason to believe that this score can go higher. Again, if Dalvin Cook's in, maybe that 14.5 is more like. I mean, we've seen Cook put up 20, 30, 40 easily, even.
Yeah.
Not 40 easily, but 20 or 30 easily.
And
Uh,
I didn't start Rashad Penny, and I started Devonta Freeman, and Penny put up 20 on the bench.
yeah, and I think you have him
He-
starting this week. Aaron Rodgers also less than right around 20. Like, you have reason to believe this score can go higher than 148. So like, it's it's fitting that our two teams made the final, certainly. Um, and that really brings us to the moment of truth here. I mean, we really quick. I guess we'll before we get to that, we'll just talk about your schedule really briefly.
Yeah.
Because I think you had said that my team kind of underperformed the first 4 weeks and then really came on strong. Um, you can make the same case about your team. I mean, I think one of the things is though I think my team started really booming in that stretch of wins, and like you said, you benefited from like a 110 to 104 score line. You won with 108. You had some weeks where you had one week where I think you beat McMillan by like less than 2 points, and it's like
I think there was a few weeks where I won by less. Yeah.
I will say that one thing that's funny about this championship is much like the year that last year where Jerry was shit talking Zach's team all year long and then faced him in the final. I feel like I've been hard on two people in my grading and everything like that, and it was you and Window. And so the fact that like I've talked I've made jokes like, oh yeah, James doesn't deserve to be here, whatever. And now you're here, and it's like, and this is my revenge game, by the way. After you
Yeah.
beat me 2 years ago, I need to win this. I desperately need to win this.
Well, what I need you to do is take yourself in the bidding for the finals because my team apparently feeds on negative energy. And so
Apparently.
keep it coming. Keep it coming.
Well, I'm gonna let you predict first who's gonna win, and I'll let that dictate.
I want to see, like, just looking back at the season, I want to see where the teams that didn't make it, where they went wrong. Like, because again, Alex is putting up massive points through weeks 4, 5. Even Brad put up 170 at a point.
I mean,
Uh,
it was a truly weird season in the sense that the top two scores, neither one of them ended up with a bye.
yeah.
I'm not saying it would have made a difference because we both would have, like, I would have made the playoffs regardless. You made the playoffs regardless, and we would have won any semifinal we were in this week. Uh, but I guess looking back now that I'm thinking about it, what did I put up on my bye week? Because I don't think it was that impressive.
No, I don't think it was either. It was like,
110.
yeah, and you set your lineup as well.
I did, and granted, Alex had a bad week against you. McMillan had a bad week, so like, actually though, now I'm looking at it, I was second in scoring only to Jason Smith that week. Everyone had a down week that week. I beat you.
Yeah,
I
it's
beat.
true.
Yeah, so that's weird.
I remember them, the commentators, fantasy football experts, talking about how low the touchdowns were in the first round of the playoffs. They were definitely low last week or this last weekend.
But think about
Um,
this:
go ahead.
Jason Smith, if he had made the playoffs, if I didn't beat him 2 weeks before the playoffs started, and he made the playoffs, he would have beaten everybody then. So he would have gone on to the quarterfinals, and whoever he played would have been eliminated. And then he put up 137. He only would have lost to myself or you. So depending upon how the brackets shaked out, he could have very well have found himself here.
Yep.
Um,
And then better
so
next year, Jason. That's how the cookie crumbles.
yeah, I mean, the funny part is his team was too good on paper to make it here. That's Jared is right.
There's one thing I would let us say before we go on to the championship game. So I do feel like I feel like I stole the game a little bit from Zach in not an unsportsmanlike almost kind of way, just because he got hit so hard by COVID this last week. He had Darren Waller, DeAndre Swift, Mike Evans, and Elijah Mitchell all out with COVID. That's that's a tight end. That's a tight end one. That's a one wide receiver one, running back two, running back one. Like it's hard to do a lot from that. I think that 116 is pretty respectable considering that.
That's a very fair point. I think, um, like it sucks. It's the one of the things that Jerry said a couple when we were in New York. Availability matters, and like it's not fair. Zach has no control over that. It's just like you said, the way the cookie crumbles. It's a shame that COVID has taken the toll it has on the season so far. It does, in a sense, reward teams that can go to their bench and can go deep, but there's a limit to that, right? Like you can plug a hole to an extent, but you can't plug some of these major holes that develop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think that actually exposes teams like yours more when you have a few good players like Jonathan Taylor that are really carrying your team, but you've just gotten lucky. Those players have not been hit.
yeah, and
All right.
I'm looking at our league scoreboard page. And I just thank you ESPN for this. I just love like it's the little things, right? I go to our matchup and right underneath it says championship matchup. It's just nice to see that, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Again, this is one of those games. I remember when the Texas Rangers World Series in 2010. We had never been to the World Series before, and honestly, I was just happy to be there. And considering both of us started 0-4, I think we kind of, notwithstanding the fact that we want to win, both of us need to just basically be happy that we made it this far.
I mean, yes, but right? Like, yes, but I appreciate where you're coming from. Yes, going from the outhouse to the penthouse, started from the bottom. Now we're here. I love how this season has gone. Obviously, as given how it started, but I'm hungry. I'm riding a 12-year drought. I had the longest active drought of a title in league history. I'm the commissioner. Every year I do this and I never win. This is the year. This is the year.
I hope you hold it against me when I have to beat you 2 times in 3 years.
It's not the Lawyer Bowl 2.0 is going my way. This is my year. I got married this year. I changed jobs this year. Everything is aligning for this to be the year. And
right, well, let's take a look at this then. Let's break it down and see what we think is going to happen here. Because
I am a 52% favorite according to ESPN. I have the line is 7.2 right now in favor of me. This may not be my starting line though. I will tell you in the interest of full disclosure, I'm cards on the table. I may make a move at the flex. I don't know I don't know who I'd put in. The most likely, if I did take Parker out, which I very like.
Parker he did a disappearing act. I watched a little bit of the Miami game. He just disappeared.
Well, and their offense wasn't clicking on all cylinders, but they were running everything through Jalen Waddle. Mike Gesicki even wasn't at. Mike Gesicki was second in targets on the team, and he only had a couple catches. The thing about like the decision I have to make is, the way I see it, I have actually a decent bench full of viable options. Like any of these guys could get has a decent floor of like 5 or whatever, and could get more. But you can make an argument for everybody on my bench, right? Kareem Hunt, if I go with him, first of all, Devontae Parker, who's in, it's insurance against the Jalen Waddle thing. If Jalen Waddle has a bad game, Parker's since all their targets go to either Parker, Gesicki, or Waddle, Parker's going to have a good game if Waddle has a down day, because they got to throw the ball to somebody. Kareem Hunt, same thing as for Nick Chubb. It's insurance. It's owning if Hunt plays, I have the Browns backfield. Even if Hunt gets the touchdowns, it offsets Chubb missing that value. Darnell Mooney has been good when he has on certain games he has been good. He has put up like 10 to 15. He's one of my least likely starts. Mac Jones obviously is not going to play unless someone goes unless Burrow
unless you get a COVID notification, basically.
Right. One of the most likely culprits could be Van Jefferson, just because he has had good games in light of Robert Woods being out for the year. Jamal Williams probably too inconsistent, especially it depends on whether or not DeAndre Swift plays. Duke Johnson, again, I'm not seeing, even though he's the best running back Miami has right now, I'm not seeing enough to convince me to start him in a championship. And I can't start him to D there. So
it'd probably be somebody you pick up off waivers or Kareem Hunt.
It's either going to be Hunt, Jefferson, or Parker in my eyes, and I haven't decided who yet. So, but other than that, my lineup is pretty much set, barring any COVID issues.
So I think for quarterback position, I think you have the advantage.
Absolutely.
Like Rodgers is good, and you won't have a huge advantage. But Josh Allen, the number one quarterback against Atlanta's got to be bottom 3, bottom 4 teams against quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
One of the biggest takeaways of this, and I'll go to our team pages for a second, because both of us have unreal matchups, matchups. And I think maybe, and I don't know about you, but I designed I looked at week the 16 or 17, whatever it is. I looked at the championship week to see what are my guys' matchups in that week that I might be drafting. Josh Allen plays a weak Atlanta pass defense. Nick Chubb plays a weak Pittsburgh run defense. Jonathan Taylor plays a weak Las Vegas run defense. T. Higgins, Kansas City's got a decent pass D.
Joe Burrow and T. Higgins are they're going to be fighting for their lives against the high-scoring Kansas offense, right? It's like classic shootout. And Kansas City, their defense has been playing better, but it was a pretty stinker in the beginning of the league. And so I think a lot of room for points there.
Their defense,
he's not going to put up. Go ahead.
I was just say their defense limits wide receiver fantasy production, but it allows production for quarterbacks. So I'm not, if Higgins has a bad day, okay. If Burrow's throwing to Jamar Chase, I'm at least still getting some value out of that.
And look, he's not going to put up 500 yards and 5 touchdowns again, but I could see 3 and 3 from that game. 3 and 4.
You know who's great at giving up points to fantasy receivers? The Tennessee Titans. Second worst in the league. And then even the 49ers get to play the Texans. Like, I've got good matchups across the board, more or less. And you, to your credit, you have some really good matchups too.
I mean, the one I held on for the entire, since I think week 8 when I picked them up was the Pats D, and they're playing Jacksonville. You can't
best
for a better matchup.
Best matchup in the league.
Really, with the way Dallas is playing right now, I was considering riding the hot hand, but you can't start somebody against Arizona right now, especially now when I got the Pats versus Jackson.
Yeah, no, you play with the house money there. I mean, especially because the Pats are the number 2 defense in fantasy right now. Even though Cowboys are number 1. No, you've got, like, Aaron Rodgers has a great matchup against Minnesota. Their secondary is not great. Rashad Penny and A.J. Brown have great matchups.
Aaron Rodgers and Minnesota, they're both playing. Minnesota's playing for playoffs, and Aaron Rodgers is still playing for seeding. And so they got something invested, and Aaron Rodgers is always good in the cold. It's going to be like 10 degrees when that game starts.
Yeah. I mean, you've definitely got a viable starting lineup here. The real question is, who you got?
I mean, look, it's going to be close. If I'm betting on this, aside from my own interest in winning, like if I've got $100 in the game as an objective neutral observer, I'm probably putting you by like 5 or so.
You're an asshole. You're a giant asshole. Because when I pick myself, I'm going to jinx myself. And you know this. You're doing this to jinx me.
My team feeds on negative energy, man.
Well, I know I'm going to give it to you. I have to believe this is and it's not negative energy towards your team. Your team is a good team. Your team has had. I will take back one of the things that I said a couple I think during the grading episode. Your team deserves to be here. It's proven that through good performances down the stretch. It's when you needed to win, you got wins. When you needed to put up big numbers in the playoffs, you got big numbers. We both have running backs that can go for 40 in Dalvin Cook and Jonathan Taylor. We both have quarterbacks that can go for 30 in Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, even Joe Burrow. And Trey Lance, by the way, this is the only week of the year that I did not pay attention to the waiver wire because I felt like, you know what? I've got my team. Let's roll. But Trey Lance was a fantastic pickup there.
Because that's the spot where I'm really hurting, actually.
You had Baker Mayfield in, and you upgraded to Trey Lance at the time you needed to. It's a fantastic move.
I don't know if that's an upgrade. And actually, last week was kind of revenge because I was just going to ride Ryan Tannehill the entire season. Look, he's not a number 1, but he's fine. He'll put up 15 to 20 every week, regardless. And then I dropped him because I had too many quarterbacks. Rodgers and Tannehill both had a same week bye. So I dropped him thinking I would just drop some fab to pick him up again. And then fucking Zach stole him out from under me and played him in the semifinals. And so it kind of I've been bemoaning that move ever since. But I think Trey Lance, he'll do fine. I think our matchup is really gonna depend on how he does and how your flex does. Because
those are the biggest vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
I like, here's the thing, right? I have ground to make up at tight end. Mark Andrews in every universe is going to put up more than Mike Gesicki. Yeah. I have ground to make up there that I think I can make up in both running back, my running back committee, and my starting. Even I think wide receivers are kind of a wash for us, but in my running backs, my running backs and quarterbacks are going to gain some ground, I think. So the question really becomes, how does my flex compare against Hollywood? How does Trey Lance compare to Joe Burrow?
It's gonna be Hollywood or Devonta Freeman, maybe. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, I mean, because otherwise, I think I think there's pretty good balance in the matchup. But again, I've got the quarterbacks and running backs have been the ones to boom. And yes, Dalvin Cook could absolutely go off and make me eat these words. But this is my year. It has to be my year. I am having visions of that trophy at the wedding, being able to take a league picture with everybody in their suits and tuxes, and me holding that bitch. I need it. And this is my year. This is the year the drought ends. I believe in it just like I believed in Miami's miraculous turnaround 7-game win streak. I believe that I will win. Period. Belief and confidence.
You know, again, that puts me in the position that I wanted to be in going to this, having been doubted upon. It's where I've been the entire season, and it led me well so far.
Let me be clear though. I will not disrespect your team in the sense that your team deserves to be here. Whatever happens, it's going to be a good time.
No, Sean, let the hate flow, man. Let the confidence come.
There's no hate. There's no hate. It's only self-love. It's only that it's not that I think your team isn't great, because by gosh it is. It's just that I think that my team, this is destiny. It is destiny that I'm going to win this year. I can't wait for Sunday.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
It'll be a good time.
By the way, I just picked up Mike Williams off waivers, so he's not somebody you can pick up now.
Who dropped Mike Williams?
Zach dropped Mike Williams.
Why?
I think because he was out for COVID, and he was not going to be eligible for this Sunday until they changed the rules on it like 2 days ago.
But he's out of the I guess he's playing for the $100. Okay, I'm not going to question it because he's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not likely to pick anybody up anyway, to be honest. Like, I have been watching the waiver wire. Like I said, if I at this point, I'm gonna either win it on my own merits or lose it on my own merits.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much, James, for coming on the last regular season pod the last pod of the year. Really, we might do one episode 15 to kind of like debrief and talk about the championship game. But it's been an awesome, crazy, insane, wild year. It's fitting that we're doing this episode on the day before New Year's Eve, because what a year it's been.
It has been. And it's just a shame that you're going to start out the new year with a brutal defeat.
It's not going to happen. This is my year. Do you realize that I'm going on my honeymoon January 18th to 28th down in Mexico? And I just again have I might try to bring that trophy on the plane.
You know what? You know, Sean, if you win it, it'd be worth the bag check fees.
I'm saying it would. I'm gonna pay first class to send it down there just so I could sit on a beach and drink my electric lemonades and pina coladas with my beautiful trophy.
And if I win it, I'm just gonna, I don't know, I'll put it in a closet here in New York somewhere. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. You can put it on outside and then that tiny 2-foot wide hallway that you have on that 4th floor walk up.
Exactly. I'll make people walk over it just to make them think about my victory.
Attaboy.
All right.
Thank you guys for watching.
Good luck.
Good luck. Good luck to Daryl and Zach. Well, you know what? Really quick, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's do a quick. Yeah.
I forgot to do Daryl and Zach. So let's do that because I
I'll take
totally
the
spaced
matchup.
on. I was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I forgot that there was something riding on that too.
$100.
Yep.
Uh, Zach, it seems, is the heavy favorite, but that also uh, is because Daryl still has, I think, Carson Wentz in, who is currently out.
Well, no, I mean Zach also has Mike Evans and Darren Waller who are both out, so he might be
Actually,
projected more.
but they're all projected for scores. Yeah, that's weird.
Hmm.
Um, in any event,
I think honestly it's pretty even. It depends on how Saquon does, I guess, because I know the Detroit said they're going to be running DeAndre Swift throughout the season. They're not going to hold him back at all, so he's going to put up numbers. So is Dak. I think Zach has the advantage there. He has the advantage of Jalen Hurts because Carson Wentz is not going to play. So I think it's going to go to Zach. I think pretty solidly it's going to go to Zach. No offense, Daryl.
assuming the health of all parties involved, right? Assuming, like, we can't prognosticate on some of these injuries, but
No.
assuming the health of all parties involved, the edge goes to Zach because of, you know, Dak and Jalen Hurts. Would you rather have them or Taysom Hill and Carson Wentz, right? Like, you'd obviously rather have the former. I do think running back, if it favors anyone, favors Daryl. I like Saquon. I like Cordell. I like Damian Harris.
Well, Cordarrelle's playing Buffalo, even though Buffalo's a pretty weak run defense, and so maybe, but Atlanta's going to get down really early, and he's not going to get fed a lot.
There's at least one good running back matchup for each team because Damian Harris gets Jacksonville, like you said earlier. Elijah Mitchell gets Houston, which is a pretty porous run defense. Speaking of porous defenses, Mike Evans gets the Jets, which is helpful for him. I just and Devontae Adams gets Minnesota, right? Minnesota doesn't have a great secondary. I really do think that Zach just has too much talent. Granted, Daryl's team has massive upside. Some of the guys like CD and George Kittle can absolutely go off.
Yeah.
But I
CD with Arizona playing the way they're playing, that could be a shootout. CD might have a great game too. CD and Zach.
Absolutely. But if you had to ask me which one I pick, I mean, my heart says Daryl, my head says Zach, so I got to go with my head.
I probably agree with that assessment.
So that's our pod. That's the end of the podcast until we decide a champion. Good luck to Daryl. Good luck to Zach. Good luck to you, my friend. Let's crown a champion.
The rest of you guys, suck
it. Especially Jerry. I'm sorry.
Bro. Oh, Jerry. Oh.
And one more congratulations. Congratulations to Brad. Your stomach is safe.
Saving himself.
Yeah. All right, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Good night.